Welcome back to The Historian. Tonight we look at shadows of Serpent Island, the ancient castaways and their lost civilization. Picture a time long ago when humans ventured beyond the horizons of their known world. These early explorers, bold and curious, stumbled upon what we now call Serpent Island, a piece of land lost in the vastness of the ocean. To begin our journey, let us imagine the distant past, around 1000 CE. This was a time when seafaring was an act of bravery, and the sea was both a pathway and a mystery. The first settlers of Serpent Island likely came from larger bodies of land nearby, possibly from regions resembling what would now be parts of Polynesia or areas to the southwest of the Pacific Ocean. These regions, known for their navigational prowess and mastery over the sea, provide clues to the origins of these intrepid voyagers. The settlers encountered an island lush with dense forests and surrounded by deep blue waters. The island's name, derived from its snake-like geography, hints at the many myths and whispers passed down through generations. As they set foot on its shores, these early inhabitants began to understand the potential that lay in such a remote place. Their boats were simple yet ingenious, outrigger canoes, cleverly designed for stability and speed, perfect for traveling the sometimes unforgiving ocean. The journey itself was perilous, requiring a strong knowledge of stars to navigate and an unyielding spirit to face the unknown. These settlers embodied the spirit of exploration, risking all for the promise of new beginnings. Upon reaching the island, the settlers would have found a place teeming with life. Imagine dense canopies overlooking a rich variety of wildlife, an island untamed and waiting to be part of their story. Their initial encounters with the land were driven by necessity. Shelter needed to be crafted from the natural materials around them: wood from trees, stone from the cliffs, and fibers from plants. These earliest inhabitants were likely skilled in fishing, gathering, and basic agriculture. The ocean would have provided fish, a staple part of their diet, while the fertile land offered fruits and roots that they knew from their homeland. Moreover, legends and oral traditions suggest that these settlers were adept at using the natural resources to craft tools and weapons, vital for their survival. More importantly, they brought with them their customs and traditions. These cultural threads, interwoven with the island's natural environment, began to shape a unique way of living. Archaeological evidence hints at formations that may have served religious or communal purposes, a sign of a society beginning to form. As generations passed, the island itself became less a distant land and more of a cherished home. Their connection to this place would influence their day-to-day lives, influencing everything from their dietary habits to their spiritual beliefs. The island's natural features, from its towering trees to its winding rivers, informed their practices and gradually blended into their myths. In these formative years, life on Serpent Island evolved from mere survival to a more structured existence. The people here began to build more permanent structures, possibly erected as communal gathering spots or places to worship the spiritual forces they believed inhabited the land around them. And so, the early settlers of Serpent Island left their mark. As each generation adapted to the changing tides and seasons, their story writing itself into the island's ancient soils. In our next exploration, we will journey further into understanding how these first steps paved the way for the rich and complex civilization that would eventually flourish on its shores. The story of Serpent Island is only just unfolding, inviting us to ponder upon the lives of those who first called it home and how their legacy might connect to our own. In the softened light of dawn, Serpent Island slowly emerges from the veil of mist that often cloaks its rugged form. Here, in this isolated expanse of oceanic solitude, the island tells its story through the contours of its undulating landscape. Formed over millions of years, Serpent Island is a product of ancient volcanic activity. Its foundations were laid as tectonic plates shifted, and magma forced its way to the Earth's surface, creating a series of eruptions that would eventually birth the island. As the volcanic forces subsided, the once fierce landscape began to transform. Lava flows carved patterns into the soil before cooling into solid rock. This dynamic process created unique formations visible in the rolling hills and jagged cliffs that punctuate the island's periphery. Over countless centuries, the relentless caress of the ocean waves and the gradual erosion of time continued to sculpt the island, shaping its distinct snake-like contour. The island's serpentine nature is not just a quirk of geography, it is a defining feature of the land itself. Stretching approximately 12 miles in length but only a few miles wide at various points, the twisting shape presents something of a mystery to those who encounter it for the first time. This elongated form, coupled with a varied topography, creates a landscape of striking contrast. Lush rainforests give way to barren rocky expanses, all within a relatively short distance. Lush forests dominate the interior, a vivid green tapestry of life punctuated by towering trees and thick underbrush. These forests are remnants of a more tropical world, harboring a diverse array of flora, some of which are endemic to the island. The fertile volcanic soil has nourished these forests, supporting a wide range of plants, from towering palms and sturdy hardwoods to more delicate ferns and flowering shrubs. Along the coast, steep cliffs drop dramatically into the sea. These cliffs have been shaped by the relentless forces of wind and water, gradually worn down to reveal the volcanic history locked within their layered strata. In contrast, serene beaches of fine sand line other parts of the island where erosion has been more gentle, providing calm havens for the island's first inhabitants. Among these geographical peculiarities are the small freshwater streams that trickle down from the island's modest central highlands. These streams have eroded hidden valleys over time, offering necessary resources for the island's early settlers. They feed into greater bodies of water, creating rich wetlands that support various ecosystems, contrasting sharply with the dry, rocky outcrops nearby. The climate of Serpent Island, with its frequent rains and temperate breezes, further influences the landscape. The island experiences a blend of tropical and subtropical weather patterns, largely shaped by ocean currents and wind systems. These forces bring warmth and moisture, fostering the growth of dense habitats that hide an array of wildlife. This setting provided an intriguing environment for the island's early settlers, who were likely compelled by the island's rich terrain to develop sustainable practices that worked in harmony with their surroundings. The island's abundant resources and varied landscape would become crucial to their survival, informing not just their physical needs, but also their stories and cultural expressions. As we continue to uncover the geographical intricacies of Serpent Island, we find that its landscapes are more than mere backdrops. They are integral chapters in the narrative of those who lived here. Each curve of coastline, each rocky promontory, whispers of the intricate dance between earth and sea, a story as ancient and enduring as the stones themselves. With every sunrise casting its golden glow over this mysterious silhouette, Serpent Island stands as a testament to nature's capacity to create, evolve, and endure through the eons. As explorers set their roots deeper into the sandy soils of Serpent Island, a unique culture began to bloom. The first seeds of this society were planted by those early settlers who, against the odds, adapted beautifully to the island's intriguing landscape, breathing life into a civilization that stood the test of time. Their initial endeavors, marked by survival, gradually gave way to innovation and excellence as interconnected communities emerged. The island itself provided both challenges and opportunities. The early inhabitants adapted to the island's serpentine shape, their villages often nestled in valleys where vegetation was most bountiful. Here, the early settlers would have learned to cultivate the fertile land, mastering a form of agriculture suited to the rhythmic ebbs of weather and season. Staple crops, such as taro and sweet potatoes, became central to their diet, a diet supplemented by seafood, thanks to the island's generous oceanic bounty. Wood, fibers, and stones were transformed by skilled hands into tools, weapons, and art. The crafting of these items was not merely functional. It was also a form of expression, a reflection of the cultural evolution taking place. Simple weapons became ornate, and tools were designed to pass knowledge from one generation to the next. Artisans of Serpent Island excelled in carving, using the abundant native wood to create figures that held both aesthetic and spiritual value. These carvings, intricate in detail and profound in symbolism, often depicted deities or ancestral spirits, offering a glimpse into the islanders' beliefs and societal structure. In creating these artifacts, the islanders left a tangible legacy that speaks to their creativity and reverence for their world. Much of what guided the islanders' daily life was shaped by a deep connection to the natural world. They perceived a symbiotic relationship with their environment, venerating the land and sea as both providers and protectors. It is likely that this worldview led to ceremonial practices designed to honor these forces, ceremonies that strengthened bonds within the community and linked them to their natural surroundings. Evidence of communal gathering places, their construction bolstered by communal labor, suggests a society that valued cooperation and shared prosperity. These structures, perhaps open plazas or enclosed meeting houses, served not only for social gatherings, but also as venues for decision-making and maintaining the oral tradition that ensured continuity of knowledge and history. The island's geographical quirks were harnessed to the fullest, nurturing ingenuity in architecture as well. They developed dwellings that could withstand both the frequent rains and occasional harsh winds. With roofs thatched from palms and walls crafted from woven reeds or bamboo, homes were built to blend seamlessly with the natural environment, reflecting the islanders' respect for their surroundings. From these early beginnings, diverse artistic endeavors started shaping a deeper cultural identity. It's here that we pause to reflect. If you are finding peace in these archives, remember to subscribe to join us on the next journey. The socio-political fabric of Serpent Island was likely complex and dynamic. It revolved around kinship, with extended families forming the cornerstone of societal organization. Roles and responsibilities would have been distributed among members, fostering a sense of belonging and identity that was strengthened through shared histories and collective memories. Leaders arose, possibly chosen for their wisdom or valor, uniting people under common causes, all while guided by the unspoken laws of tradition and mutual respect. Trade, both within and beyond the island's shores, would have been a catalyst for cultural exchanges. Though isolated, the island's position might have facilitated contact with other seafaring communities, introducing new ideas, goods, and practices. Each interaction would have subtly altered the cultural fabric, creating a society that was both uniquely insular and yet open to external influences. And so, Serpent Island's nascent culture began its journey, marked by adaptability, innovation, and reverence for both land and tradition. In the next Whispered Tales of Serpent Island, we will explore how these early cultural threads would weave into something much larger, richer, and unexpectedly influential amidst the expanse of the vast ocean. On Serpent Island, the whispers of the past are often told through the tangible traces left behind by its early inhabitants. As the early settlers explored their new home, they began crafting tools and symbols to express their evolving connection with the island. The archaeological discoveries on Serpent Island suggest that their creativity and resourcefulness were manifested in physical forms that not only served daily needs, but also carried deeper meanings. Imagine our first ancestors on this island, kneeling by the smooth stones they collected from the creek beds. Simple tools such as these stones were fashioned into hand axes, scrapers, and fishing implements. Skilled hands ground them against rougher rocks, meticulously shaping the edges into sharp, functional tools. These objects, however basic, became essential for hunting and preparing food. Over time, these stones were carved and etched to reflect not just utility, but also emerging cultural narratives. Tools were often imbued with symbolic meaning beyond their practical applications. We can imagine settlers carving distinct patterns and symbols into their implements, potentially to mark them as belonging to a particular family or to infuse them with protective charms. These early toolmakers might have understood their creations as extensions of themselves and their identity within the community. Structures, too, reveal much about life on Serpent Island. Foundations of early buildings have been uncovered, composed largely of timber and stone sourced from the environment. These dwellings, resilient and adapted to the island's climate, stood as enduring symbols of permanence amidst the shifting sands. The strategic placement of communal buildings and the meticulous care in their construction speak to a society that valued organization and cohesion. One striking feature is the discovery of circular stone arrangements, speculated to be early ceremonial sites or communal centers. The purpose of these structures is not entirely clear, but their presence indicates a collective effort towards creating spaces dedicated to social and spiritual gatherings. Perhaps rituals or community meetings were conducted here, under the watchful presence of carved stone markers that possibly represented ancestral spirits guiding the community's future. Symbols etched or painted on these structures are essential in decoding the societal beliefs of the islanders. Some depict complex geometric patterns, while others show simplified forms of animals or sea waves, indicating the natural element's influence on their worldview. Such symbols may have conveyed messages of unity, tales of creation, or honor to deities believed to govern the land and sea. Artifacts also speak to the artistry of these early inhabitants. Ceramic fragments reveal an early form of pottery making, signifying a leap in domestic life. These were not just containers, they were canvases that carried family stories and beliefs. Patterns on pots might represent ancestral lineages or chronicle significant events like successful harvests and communal gatherings. The evolution of pottery techniques, from simple sun-baked clay to more complex kiln-fired ware, illustrates the community's growing sophistication and adaptation. As we piece together these remnants, they form the trail of a storied civilization. By holding these ancient objects, one can feel the pulse of a society learning to thrive in harmony with its environment. These artifacts, tools, and symbols embody the culmination of human ingenuity intertwined with respect for the natural world. The journey through these historical remnants leads us to ponder deeper questions about the relationships between people, the land they inhabit, and the stories they leave behind. The whispers of Serpent Island's early society continue to compel our imagination, inviting us to explore further into the realms of life and legend that have intertwined here for centuries. In our next chapter, let us delve into the island's expanding network of trade and external influences as they shaped an ever more complex culture. From the earliest days on Serpent Island, when the first settlers secured their place amidst the dense vegetation and rolling hills, they embarked on an architectural journey that transformed the landscape and reflected their evolving cultural identity. Surrounded by ample natural resources, they developed building techniques that showed both ingenuity and profound respect for their environment. The architecture of Serpent Island was a testament to adaptation and sustainability. These settlers used what the island provided: timber from the lush forests, stones from its volcanic heart, and fibers from plants that thrived in its fertile soil. Homes were constructed with roofs made from tightly thatched palm fronds, offering both shelter from frequent rains and a cooling respite from the sun. Walls were often woven from local reeds or bamboo, materials that were flexible yet durable, crafted to withstand wind and weather. Such construction not only reflected a deep understanding of available resources, but also demonstrated an early commitment to integrating the built environment with the natural one. The choice of materials was likely guided by practicality and longevity, creating structures that echoed the island's shape, resilient under the press of time, just like the serpentine cliffs themselves. Communal structures were particularly striking examples of architectural mastery. These edifices were designed using advanced techniques, hinting at knowledge passed down over generations, perhaps enriched by intercultural exchanges with other island communities. Builders used stone foundations to stabilize these structures, ensuring they could stand firm amid the sometimes unforgiving island climate. One of the marvels of this early architecture was their meeting lodges, large, open-floor structures where the community gathered for ceremonies, storytelling, and decision-making. Their roofs soared high, supported by intricately carved wooden pillars decorated with motifs depicting deities, natural elements, and legendary sea voyages. These structures were testament not only to engineering skill, but also to the cultural values that emphasize storytelling, social cohesion, and shared knowledge. Beyond functional needs, architecture on Serpent Island evolved to express cultural identity and spiritual beliefs. Many structures incorporated symbolic ornamentation, merging art with utility. Intricate carvings on posts or beams served dual purposes as both functional support and narrative symbolism. These decorations tell tales of mythic heroes and cosmic forces, serving as a physical embodiment of the community's collective beliefs. The overall layout of villages reflected the island's natural topography, with buildings strategically placed to maximize access to resources like water and sun. This symbiotic relationship with nature was not just practical but spiritual, as the orientation of buildings often held deep meaning, aligning with the stars or significant geological landmarks. Their building techniques also included innovations in thermal and water management. Structures were strategically elevated to avoid ground moisture and promote natural ventilation. Ingenious use of small canal systems or trenches helped manage rainfall and irrigate crops, indicating an intricate understanding of their ecosystem. As generations passed, architecture became more ambitious. Community centers expanded, and religious sites grew more elaborate, pointing to a society increasing in complexity and ritual richness. Storied layers of human hands shaped stones and wood, each one leaving behind echoes of their era, adapting tradition with each architectural stroke. In envisioning these architectural marvels, consider the hands that laid each beam and stone. These builders left behind a legacy of creativity interwoven with practicality, shaping a living and evolving environment. The striking visage of Serpent Island today still contains traces of this ancient wisdom and ingenuity, a silent tribute to those early builders who first imagined structure amidst nature. This story of craftsmanship on Serpent Island is as much about art as architecture, depicting a civilization that found equilibrium with nature through construction. As we delve deeper, these foundations pave the way to understand how elements like trade and social rights further shape this distinctive civilization, an exploration awaiting us in future tales. Imagine the hum of daily life on Serpent Island as dawn breaks over the lush landscape. The community awakens, each individual bound by a shared rhythm, a pulse that animates this early society. As the sun rises, so too does the island's community, revealing a fascinating tableau of social order and daily activities. In the heart of this budding civilization, layers of hierarchy emerge, each structured to maintain harmony and ensure the community's survival. Leadership is likely founded on a blend of wisdom, experience, and respect, a system that may have been both fluid and dynamic, adapting as necessary to address the demands of time and change. Within a family or kinship group, elders are revered for their knowledge and experience. Perhaps they act as guides and decision makers, their authority stemming from their accumulated wisdom and ability to counsel younger generations. Through simple but effective governance, these early leaders orchestrate the use of resources, ensuring that the prosperity of their people aligns with the subtle cues given by nature. Decisions on planting, fishing, or building are debated in communal gatherings where stories are shared, forming both the fabric and glue of their society. Such gatherings would cultivate unity, weaving obligations and relationships tighter together. Everyday life on Serpent Island is a blend of skill and spirituality. Villagers rise with a purpose, their roles clearly defined by tradition and necessity. Men might venture into the forests or seas for food, engaging in hunting and fishing with tools crafted from the island's own bounty. Their return heralds a time of communal preparation, with fish and roots cooked over open fires, a shared meal marking the end of labor and the start of camaraderie. Women likely oversee the agricultural duties, tending to crops nurtured by fertile volcanic soils. With skilled hands, they work the land, ensuring the staples of taro and sweet potatoes are harvested in rhythm with the seasons. These crops are much more than sustenance. They embody the cyclical certainty upon which their well-being depends. Beyond the fields, women might also engage in weaving or pottery making, crafts passed from mother to daughter, each piece a testament to both individual artistry and collective knowledge. Children with bright, curious eyes are immersed in these daily activities. They learn through observation, instruction, and participation. Play is not just entertainment, it's education, a chance to mimic adult behaviors and internalize the cultural values threading through every action. These early experiences set the foundation for their eventual roles in the community, ensuring continuity within the society's fabric. The people of Serpent Island recognize the sea not only as a source of nourishment, but as a significant presence in their spiritual and societal lives. To them, the ocean is both guardian and provider, harboring myths and gods within its depths. Rituals honoring these deities might coincide with fishing expeditions or at times of harvest, conducted with reverence as offerings to maintain balance and bounty. In the social matrix of these castaways, networks extend beyond familial lines. There are apprentices learning specific skills, craftsmen honing their artistry, and traders venturing to the sea's edge, ready to exchange ideas and products with far-off lands. Such interactions enrich their society, as foreign goods and concepts subtly reshape customs, creating complex ties that bind them even across waves. The interdependence that defines life on Serpent Island is less about rigid hierarchy and more about maintaining equilibrium, a balance vital for adapting to change. Their societies are intricate weaves of kinship, skill, and adaptation underlining resilience. As they face the ceaseless ocean tides and unpredictable seasons, the islanders of Serpent Island demonstrate an enduring spirit of cooperation. Thus, nestled within the familiar sounds of ocean and wind, daily life on Serpent Island unfolds with a grace driven by tradition and innovation. Each sunrise marks both a new beginning and a continuation of an ancient cycle, where each islander plays a vital role under the vast canopy of sky and myth. In our exploration of Serpent Island's cultural evolution, we find ourselves on the threshold of deeper understanding, ready to uncover how these societal rhythms would guide them into an era of prosperity and transformation. As the sun rose over the jagged cliffs and green valleys of Serpent Island, its inhabitants began to expand their horizons beyond the familiar, exploring the possibilities that lay across the vast ocean expanse. With the evolving needs of growing communities, the early settlers recognized the potential in establishing connections beyond their immediate surroundings. These interactions were not just about trade, but vital for cultural exchange, allowing ideas and practices to mingle and flourish. On the shores of Serpent Island, early canoes were being crafted and readied for journeys of exploration and trade. These simple yet masterfully constructed vessels were integral in creating lines of communication with distant lands. The islanders, adept at reading the stars and interpreting the currents, could navigate the vast ocean expanses, securing ties with neighboring islands and beyond. From these early voyages, trade routes began to develop, forming a network that linked Serpent Island with other island communities. These routes were not merely pathways for material goods, but conduits of culture, language, and knowledge. They allowed for the exchange of more than just commodities. New agricultural techniques, artistic styles, and spiritual beliefs traveled across the waves, enriching the island's culture. Among the valuable exports from Serpent Island were unique carvings and pottery, each piece infused with the islanders' symbolic and artistic expressions. These items were highly valued by trading partners, who marveled at their intricate designs and the cultural significance they carried. In return, the people of Serpent Island acquired new tools, exotic plants, and materials not available on their shores, which stimulated local innovation and craft. Perhaps one of the most impactful exchanges was the knowledge of agriculture. New crop varieties and farming methodologies were introduced, expanding the island's food production capacity. The knowledge of different irrigation techniques and crop rotations likely came from neighbors who had mastered these skills over centuries. This exchange not only ensured food security, but also influenced societal structures, as communities could support larger populations and develop more complex social systems. Artifacts unearthed from archaeological sites on the island show evidence of these external influences and adapting traditions. Pottery styles mimic those found on other islands, and tools showcase design elements unique to distant shores. These findings reveal how trade facilitated a dynamic interplay of cultural characteristics, creating a richly woven tapestry of island culture. Moreover, these interactions prompted advancements in navigation as well. The islanders refined their navigation skills, recording and sharing navigational knowledge that would become crucial in expanding their influence and securing trade routes. As they ventured farther and returned with tales of other lands, they helped shape a worldview that reached beyond their isolated shores. The benefits of such trade were manifold. Economically, it provided access to resources and goods not naturally abundant on the island, thus enriching the everyday lives of its people. Culturally, it fostered an exchange that blended elements of foreign traditions into local customs, creating a vibrant and diversified culture. With each journey across the horizon, the islanders added layers to their cultural identity, learning from and adapting to the new ideas they encountered. These voyages of trade and expansion not only bolstered the island's economy, but also stimulated innovation, creating a culture that was as expansive and deep as the ocean itself. As the winds of trade carried them to new shores, the people of Serpent Island found themselves more interconnected with the broader world than ever before. This expansion of horizons not only transformed their physical world, but also their cultural landscape, setting the stage for an era of prosperity and further cultural development. In the flourishing heart of peak civilization on Serpent Island, a true cultural blossom was underway. This was a period marked by exceptional artistry, deeply held beliefs, and elaborate rituals. This era, at its zenith, showed perhaps the most dazzling illumined facets of the island's civilization, shimmering through both tangible and intangible heritage. Artistry was at the core of this cultural renaissance. The islanders drew inspiration from their vivid natural surroundings, translating the vibrant life into intricate carvings, elaborate pottery, and expressive textiles. Wood carving was considered a sacred craft, deeply entwined with spiritual practices. Artisans took great pride in crafting figures that resonated with their ancestral spirits, often depicting deities believed to watch over the island or to symbolize natural elements like wind, water, and volcanic energy. These sculptures were more than mere decoration. They were revered as sacred objects that connected the everyday world to the spiritual realm. Pottery during this period also evolved into a highly refined art. The motifs on these earthenware pieces expanded to include intricate patterns that told stories of creation, heroism, and dreams. Each pot was not just a vessel, but a storyteller, immortalizing the shared narratives and beliefs of a community on its surface. The inside of these pots sometimes held small charcoal drawings or etchings that were believed to bring good luck or protection to the user, revealing the depth of symbolic meanings interwoven into everyday life. Textile work, advanced during this cultural peak, reflected not just skill, but the islanders' connection to their environment. They wove fibers from plants into vibrant garments, each thread dyed with natural pigments sourced from the surrounding flora. Clothing was both practical and ceremonial, used in everyday wear or to signify rank and status within the complex social hierarchies that defined their society. Special ceremonial garments were adorned with patterns signifying affiliation to clans or kinship groups, and were proudly worn during significant events and rituals. The beliefs woven through these artistic expressions were deeply spiritual. The islanders believed in an animistic view of the world where every tree, rock, and stream was imbued with spirit. This view created a culture of respect and caution, ensuring that every action taken was in balance with the environment. They developed myths to explain natural phenomena. Imposing volcanoes were perhaps seen as God's fiery wrath or as nourishing forces that fed the land, while rolling waves symbolized the steady heartbeats of sea deities. Rituals were woven seamlessly into daily life, serving both social and spiritual functions. Ceremonies to honor the land and sea were paramount. These gatherings often occurred at special religious sites constructed near waterfalls or along the cliffs. During these events, participants engaged in chant, dance, and offerings, all rhythmic indicators of their gratitude to nature's abundance. Elders played pivotal roles, imparting knowledge through spoken word, a tradition vital for maintaining the cohesion of beliefs and the continuity of their cultural lineage. Certain transitional moments in life, such as coming of age, marriages, and memorials, were marked with elaborate rituals that helped reinforce social bonds and underscore the community's shared identity. These rituals intricately included offerings and symbolic gestures to ensure prosperity and protection over those involved. A common spiritual theme prevailed in these acts, the cyclical nature of life mirroring the island's tides and seasons, constantly guarding and guiding the islanders in a harmonious balance with their surroundings. At Serpent Island's peak cultural capacity, artistry, beliefs, and rituals were not just distinct aspects of life. They were the warp and weft of the community's fabric, binding together past, present, and future. As the islanders expressed themselves through vibrant colors, thoughtful carvings, and meaningful rituals, they laid the foundation for a rich legacy that would live on long after their voices had faded. These cultural expressions, immortalized on the island's soil and in its legends, would become the keystone of what made Serpent Island civilization truly remarkable. As dawn unfurled its gentle light across the horizon, the world turned its gaze toward the enigmatic island that had been forgotten by time. The journey to rediscover Serpent Island began with a whisper among scholars and adventurers, a spark igniting a flame of curiosity among those who wondered what relics of a lost civilization might slumber beneath the island's dense canopy and rugged terrain. The island, spoken of in myth and historical fragments, had long eluded modern explorers. But in the late 19th century, as the thirst for discovery reached its zenith, a series of expeditions were mounted to seek out this land of legends. Knowledge of its existence had been handed down through sailors' tales and vague maps drawn by early navigators who glimpsed the distant silhouette, wrapping it in an aura of mystery. An illustrious expedition set forth under the guidance of renowned archaeologist Professor Edward Harrington and his team of scholars, cartographers, and seasoned mariners. Aboard the expedition ship, excitement mingled with the salty sea air as these pioneers of the unknown prepared for a voyage into antiquity. Their vessel cut through waves, guided by stars just as the early settlers had once voyaged centuries before. Upon reaching Serpent Island, their anticipation transformed into awe. Dense foliage, reminiscent of the deep greens described in explorer journals, lined the coastal edges. The island appeared untouched, a pristine echo of nature's original creation. As they stepped onto the virgin sands, the team marveled at the ancient flora, some species unknown to science, yet resonating deeply with the land's prehistoric aura. The initial weeks on Serpent Island were devoted to mapping its topography and cataloging visible features. The team divided their efforts between the cliffs that offered panoramic views and the forests that whispered secrets with each rustle of leaves. They documented wildlife unseen anywhere else, evidence of an ecosystem uniquely its own. But their true mission was to uncover the remnants of human civilization. The archaeologists focused their search on areas of unusual growth patterns or stone arrangements, indicators of past human habitation. They soon unearthed what they sought: ancient stone foundations that hinted at the existence of structures far more sophisticated than anyone had guessed. Meticulously, they excavated the ruins, their efforts revealing intricate carvings and finely crafted implements. Bits of pottery and tools told of a story where artisans once thrived, their skills passed through generations. Each artifact unearthed was a testament to a society that had managed not only to survive, but to thrive in this remote locale. The team's discovery of an extensive series of petroglyphs carved into stone faces became the expedition's centerpiece. The glyphs depicted tales of gods and men, flora and fauna, weaving a narrative of life and spirituality. Here was proof that the island had indeed been home to a vibrant culture, one that had experienced triumphs, challenges, and change. As these discoveries came to light, the team's understanding of Serpent Island's history grew ever more nuanced. Scholars debated the relationship between the natural environment and human adaptation. Plant remains and soil samples suggested advanced agricultural techniques familiar to those used by coastal societies that were contemporaneous with the settlers' assumed timeline. Their encounters with these ancient artifacts generated new questions about how isolated societies developed complex interactions with their environments. The very rocks and soil of Serpent Island became chapters in a broader narrative, giving insights into rhythms of life begun so many centuries ago. Thus, through persistence and scholarly dedication, Serpent Island's secrets began to emerge from the shadows, revealing a rich tapestry of human life that defied the forces of time. The rediscovery of this lost world offered not only a glimpse into the mysteries of the past, but also a profound appreciation of humanity's resilience and capacity to adapt. In the ancient annals of Serpent Island, tales of war and peace are as intricate as its landscape. As the early inhabitants settled into their new home, building their society on the verdant slopes and rocky coasts, they were not truly isolated. The vast ocean that surrounded them also connected them to other islands and civilizations scattered across the blue expanse. From these distant lands came both opportunity and threat. The islanders, with their expertly crafted canoes, boldly ventured across the ocean lanes. These voyages were not only for trade, as covered before, but also for securing alliances or engaging in disputes. The development of alliances was crucial for trade continuity, resource sharing, and cultural exchanges. Inter-island visits originally began with cautious trade, but as familiarity grew, so too did formal partnerships. Such alliances provided mutual support in times of need, whether it was assistance during food shortages or defense against common enemies. Historical evidence suggests that Serpent Island's people were skilled negotiators. Their leaders, likely chosen for their diplomatic acumen, would forge bonds with neighbors that could provide economic and military support. These ties bolstered their defenses and expanded opportunities for cultural exchange, introducing new ideas and goods throughout the community. But not all meetings between the settlers and their neighbors ended peacefully. While trade and unity often prevailed, conflicts were inevitable. Limited resources on small islands, territorial disputes, and differing cultural practices sometimes led to unavoidable tensions spilling into skirmishes or wars. Archaeological remnants, such as fortifications and weapons found on Serpent Island, hint at periods of conflict where the settlers fortified their defenses and honed their martial skills. The warriors of Serpent Island were likely trained from a young age in the art of combat, passing down warfare techniques that combined physical prowess with strategic cunning. Their weaponry, crafted from the island's natural resources, included spears tipped with sharpened stone and bows designed to suit the rugged terrains of both land and sea battles. These warriors would have employed intimate knowledge of their homeland to defend against invaders, using the island's geography to their advantage. Occasionally, war erupted not out of open hostility, but misunderstandings, a clash of beliefs or customs. The islanders' animistic worldview, entwined with strict traditions and rituals, often clashed with other ways of life. These differences sometimes required negotiation under tense circumstances to prevent escalation into violent encounters. Despite these conflicts, the Serpent Island civilization demonstrated resilience and adaptability, learning from each interaction whether peaceful or contentious. After conflicts, efforts were made to repair alliances and strengthen bonds. Peace treaties, often marked by marriage alliances or shared ceremonies, served as pivotal reconciliations, laying the groundwork for longer-lasting peace. Histories recorded in oral traditions and delicately carved into monuments show signs of reconciliation and diplomacy prevailing over outright dominion. This demonstrates the islanders' recognition of interdependence, the realization that endurance and prosperity often lay in cooperation rather than conquest. Furthermore, the evolution of societal and technological development on Serpent Island during these periods of contention and alliance illustrates a civilization constantly adapting to both internal and external pressures. They preserved their core traditions while embracing necessary change, ensuring their continued survival and growth. The stories of war and peace on Serpent Island reflect a balancing act between isolation and interaction, highlighting the complexities of maintaining a civilization in harmony with distant neighbors. As emerging conflicts tested their steadfastness, vibrant alliances fortified their spirit, sustaining a society that thrived at the crossroads of ancient maritime paths. With each chapter of conflict resolved, the island prevailed ever stronger, its legacy secured in the annals of time. When we consider these stories, we see not only a history of struggle, but the telling of a civilization that navigated the complex dance of human nature, striving for peace amidst inevitable discord. From these lessons of the past emerges a richer narrative for the civilizations that followed, setting the stage for future chronicles on Serpent Island. Amidst the waves and whispers of the past, modern science has cast an illuminating light on the enigmatic Serpent Island, uncovering revelations that reanimate the ancient life once thriving there. From the tools left behind to the genetic traces found in flora and fauna, significant findings have reshaped our understanding of this lost civilization. Archaeology has played a pivotal role in bringing to life the society that once flourished on the island. Modern-day archaeologists have meticulously excavated various sites across Serpent Island, revealing an array of artifacts that tell tales of innovation and daily life. One of the most astonishing discoveries was a collection of intricately carved stone tools, indicating a very refined level of toolmaking for its time. These tools, formed from basalt and other local stones, exhibit a level of craftsmanship suggesting both utility and artistry, pointing towards a society that valued both survival and beauty in their creations. Radiocarbon dating of organic materials like charred plant remains and bone fragments has provided temporal markers that have helped scientists sequence the island's occupation. These methods confirmed a timeline consistent with what oral traditions and some physical artifacts hinted at, tracing back to as early as 900 CE. This convergence of historical evidence and modern technology offers a precise chronological framework, shedding light on how these communities structured their lives through time. Genetic studies have further expanded our understanding, particularly regarding the biological legacy left behind in the island's modern ecosystems. Scientists have analyzed plant remains, specifically seeds found in ancient refuse heaps, helping us understand the agricultural practices and staple crops of the islanders, including the domestication of local plant varieties. This genetic evidence indicates a sophisticated level of agricultural development that suggests the islanders were able to adapt crops brought from their ancestral lands to their new environment, employing crop rotation and selective planting techniques. In terms of the island's fauna, bioarchaeological analyses have informed us about the dietary patterns and hunting practices of the island's early inhabitants. The remains of fish, shellfish, and birds found within dig sites have been studied, revealing a diversified diet heavily reliant on marine resources, a conclusion that aligns with the island's oceanic surroundings. These studies have also indicated specific hunting seasons and methods, giving us insight into the rhythms of island life and how the people aligned their activities with the natural cycles around them. Meanwhile, advancements in marine archaeology have provided glimpses into the maritime capabilities of the islanders. Analysis of maritime routes and recovered wrecks from the surrounding seafloor pointed towards a robust system of trade and travel. These wrecks, often vessels of distant origin, underscore the island's role as a central node in a sprawling network of sea-based trade, reinforcing the concept that these ancient people were not isolated, but actively engaged with their maritime neighbors. Each of these scientific revelations weaves together a more complete picture of the island's ancient society. The synthesis of archaeology, genetics, and marine exploration highlights a civilization both complex and dynamic, adept at adapting to its environment while maintaining rich cultural traditions. Through these findings, the mysteries of Serpent Island continue to unfold, one discovery at a time, making the past as vivid and tangible as the sand and sea that border the island today. Imagine a time when the horizon was not a limitation, but an invitation for exploration. Serpent Island, with its strategic position, became a pivotal player in ancient maritime history. Early inhabitants of this island understood the potential of the sea as a network of opportunity, not only for sustenance, but also for connection. The island's location made it an ideal stopover for early navigators, linking trade routes among neighboring island communities. Skills in maritime exploration were paramount, and the islanders honed these abilities to perfection. Using the stars as their guide and the wind as their ally, these early seafarers carved paths across the ocean, interweaving trade and cultural exchange with distant lands. Their canoes were crafted with precision, designed for both speed and stability, enabling voyages across vast stretches of open water. The construction principles and navigational techniques were likely passed down through generations, evolving as encounters with other cultures introduced novel ideas and materials. This penchant for innovation allowed Serpent Island to not only access, but also influence a sprawling maritime trade network. Trade brought a wealth of resources unavailable on their island, such as new plant species, tools, and raw materials like obsidian or fine textiles that the islanders could not produce themselves. Beyond the tangible exchanges, these interactions sparked cultural diffusion, introducing new rituals, languages, and practices that would enrich and diversify island life. Artifacts uncovered from various digs tell stories of this dynamic period. Pottery shards showcasing artistry influenced by foreign aesthetics, tools with non-native designs, and ornaments made from imported materials paint a picture of a civilization that adopted and integrated foreign elements seamlessly. Moreover, these maritime interactions extended beyond personal enrichment. They forged alliances which not only secured economic benefits, but also provided crucial diplomatic ties. These relations were instrumental during times of conflict or environmental challenges, ensuring support from a wider network of communities. The islanders' mastery over their maritime environment allowed them to thrive as an influential player in the broader Pacific region. Their reputation as skilled navigators and savvy traders became renowned, drawing others to their shores not just for goods, but for knowledge and expertise in seafaring. Relationships with distant islands mean that the cultural influence of Serpent Island is far-reaching. Trades created a feedback loop of information and tradition, where the islanders simultaneously influenced and were influenced by the wider world. This interplay highlights the significance of maritime exploration in shaping societies and cultures across the globe. Thus, as we reflect on Serpent Island's past, we see how their legacy is interwoven with the tides and currents. They exemplified a spirit of exploration and exchange, leaving an indelible mark across the ancient maritime world, a legacy that navigates through time, reminding us of the interconnectedness of cultures across the seas. In the present day, Serpent Island stands as a hauntingly beautiful reminder of a vibrant past. Its present landscape is punctuated by remnants of an ancient civilization, their stone outlines barely visible through the lush greenery that has reasserted its dominance over centuries. The sands and soils of the island hold stories carved by human hands, whispering to us of lives long gone. The ruins on Serpent Island reveal much to those who tread carefully among them. Among the most telling of these are the remains of buildings once bustling with life, foundations of homes and communal structures, their stone bases the only vestiges of what once supported walls of wood and thatch. In some places, the stones form circular arrangements, suggesting communal gathering areas, where once the people of the island would have gathered to share stories and strengthen bonds. The significance of these ruins lies not only in their physical presence, but in what they reveal about the social structure of those who lived here. The architecture indicates a society that valued collaboration and community. In the ruins, archaeologists have found evidence of shared spaces, perhaps markets or meeting areas, where the exchange of goods and ideas would have taken place, hinting at a sophisticated social organization that facilitated both governance and celebration. Adjacent to these communal ruins are the remnants of pathways that connected different parts of the settlement. These paths, worn smooth by generations of footsteps, attest to a society on the move, a people who valued connectivity and had carefully organized their living spaces to maximize the efficiency of daily life. In the sanctuaries of the past, archaeologists have uncovered clues that speak to the spiritual life of Serpent Island's inhabitants. Carvings etched into stone depict figures and motifs of religious significance, celestial bodies, ancestral spirits, and mythical creatures that played pivotal roles in the cosmology of the islanders. These provide profound insights into their belief systems, reflecting the stories and rituals that bound them together. The artifacts and relics bear witness to a community that celebrated not just earthly existence, but also its connection to the spiritual realms. Within these relics are implements of everyday life, stone adzes, fishing hooks fashioned from bone, and pottery shards that bear the imprints of hands that once crafted them for storing food or water. The tools speak of a resourceful people, adept at harnessing the island's plentiful resources for sustenance and survival. These items paint a portrait of an industrious society that thrived through skillful adaptation to its environment. Moreover, The pottery fragments recovered from the ruins are of particular interest. These pieces, inscribed with intricate patterns, suggest a rich storytelling tradition. Each pattern, perhaps unique to a family or clan, could have conveyed stories of ancestral lore, passed through generations and etched into the very fabric of everyday objects. The island's culture was vibrant, infused into even the most mundane facets of daily life, with each item holding a piece of the people's history. Fascinating, too, are the tools and weapons, whose designs evolved over time to reflect the changing needs and influences on the island's society. Their craftsmanship tells of a deep knowledge of materials and processes, honed through generations. The island's inhabitants innovated continuously, adjusting to new challenges and opportunities as reflected in their implements. The presence of foreign materials within these artifacts points to trade exceeding the island's shores. Items crafted from non-native stone, shells, or metals indicate a network of exchange, suggesting contact with far-off lands and hinting at both beneficial and rich interactions. As the sun sets over the serene horizon of Serpent Island, the ruins become silhouettes in the fading light. They stand as silent, enduring guardians of a legacy forgotten by history, yet slowly rediscovered through persistent exploration and study. The ruins of Serpent Island tell a tale of human ingenuity, resilience, and the unyielding spirit of a people who, long ago, called this island home. As we continue our journey into the past, let us open the door to exploration of the transformations and innovations that shaped Serpent Island's evolutionary trajectory. The story of Serpent Island's decline is woven with the myths and legends whispered through time, blending mystery with history as communities faded into silence. Various tales from the island's descendants and surrounding cultures have tried to explain how such a vibrant civilization could fall into obscurity. According to legends, Serpent Island was once home to powerful spiritual forces that both nurtured and demanded devotion from its inhabitants. Stories passed down through generations suggest that these forces were embodied in mythical beings who governed the land and seas. As long as the island's inhabitants honored these entities through rituals and offerings, the spirits provided protection and prosperity. The origin of decline, according to myth, lies in a spiritual imbalance. There are tales of a great schism among the islanders, where disagreements over ritual practices led to division. This disunity is said to have weakened the communal bonds that had long held their society together. In the stories, this discord angered the deities and ancestral spirits, causing them to withdraw their favor. As a result, natural calamities such as droughts, storms, and failed crops were believed to plague the island, further weakening its once thriving communities. Another legend suggests environmental factors altered the island's course. It speaks of an era when the islands around experienced significant climate shifts, changing the patterns of rain and wind crucial for agriculture and sea navigation. These shifts, coupled with overexploitation of resources, may have contributed to scarcity. In this narrative, people began to leave the island in search of more abundant lands, leaving behind only whispers of their presence. Some stories speak of rising tensions and hostilities with neighboring islands as resources became more scarce. Myths tell tales of external conflicts and invasions, where warriors from distant lands sought to seize the island's wealth. Such external threats, real or imagined, are said to have drained both physical and emotional resilience from the islanders, eroding their society from within. Amidst these tales lies the myth of the Silent Call, a mysterious event said to have enveloped the island in silence one fateful night. Islanders believed this was a sign, a celestial omen, forewarning them that their days were numbered if the spirits remained discontented. Some legends claim this was a time when the islanders decided to cease all rituals, allowing silence to reclaim both their lands and their voices. These stories, while steeped in myth, serve as allegories for possible real-world events. Archaeological evidence supports the notion of environmental challenges, shifting climates, soil depletion, and possibly natural disasters could indeed have impacted the island's ability to sustain its population. Population pressures, especially when compounded by unfriendly neighbors, could lead to productive breakdowns and population dispersal, explaining the rapid abandonment indicated by material culture remains. The evidence from abandoned habitation sites suggests a fairly rapid decline in human activity on the island. The once distinct pottery styles disappear from archaeological records, and elaborate carvings were no longer maintained, a clear indication that cultural activities waned. Early European explorers' arrival further disrupted what was left of the indigenous culture, accelerating its demise. Although modern science cannot confirm these legendary accounts entirely, it can provide clues and context. It's likely that the combination of environmental crises, social discord, and external pressures created a perfect storm swirling around the island, contributing to a slow fragmentation of the society. Over the years, as younger generations left Serpent Island for more promising horizons, leaving behind their sacred lands, the once vibrant hum of daily life diminished, giving way to the echo of silence. As we reflect on these depictions of decline and the legacy they leave behind, we prepare ourselves to delve deeper, exploring what remains from these tales. The stories and remnants together craft a wider understanding of how civilizations transform, endure, or fade into the landscape over time. In these echoes, we ponder what wisdom might be gained for future generations journeying through their epochs. In the quiet landscape of modernity, traces of the old Serpent Island civilization linger in ways that continue to connect us to the past. An island that once thrived in dynamic self-sufficiency still echoes through the cultures and practices of today, shadows of its ancient existence cast upon the present. These connections bridge the old with the new, linking traditions, techniques, and narratives across time with the subtle persistence of persistent whispers. For many of the island's descendants, traditions passed from generation to generation continue to serve as a living link to the ancient civilization. Oral histories, stories, and songs that once filled communal gatherings have been carefully preserved even as they are shared across different islands. These stories, steeped in myth and legend, hold teachings about the land, the sea, and the spirits, blending history with folklore in a way that enriches identity and sustains cultural heritage. Contemporary art scenes across the Pacific Islands show stylistic motifs that draw deeply from those rooted in Serpent Island's legacy. The spiritual symbolism evident in ancient carvings can still be observed today in the intricate tattoos and woven patterns produced by artists. These modern interpretations pay homage to the past, valuing the artistic expressions of their ancestors while adapting them to contemporary contexts. Through their hands, the ancient culture finds new life, ensuring its resonance continues across generations. Linguistic ties, too, have enduringly connected present communities to the island's past. Words and phrases from the Serpent Islands language have been integrated into modern dialects spoken by island residents. This linguistic adoption helps us see the echoes of the once flourishing civilization still alive in daily communications, enriching the vocabulary with nuances of history and shared experience. Furthermore, traditional ecological knowledge passed down mirrors the practices honed by those early settlers. Farmers today still apply old methods of crop rotation, soil management, and the cultivation of native plants, practices that initially allowed the islanders to prosper. These methods have modern scientific backing, yet their roots in ancient wisdom demonstrate their effectiveness long recognized by ancestors. In this way, they offer sustainability guidance that addresses modern challenges while honoring the ingenuity of our forebears. Contemporary society also benefits from the ancient maritime strategies employed by the islanders. Navigational techniques first taught on Serpent Island, using stars, currents, and weather patterns, remain a cornerstone for those who sail today's seas. These ancient navigational skills, celebrated for their accuracy and refinement, are studied and appreciated worldwide, showcasing indigenous knowledge as both sophisticated and indispensable. In the fields of anthropology and archaeology, the study of Serpent Island has left a significant impact. Continued discoveries and interpretations of its ancient heritage inform our understanding of human adaptation and the resilience of societies in isolated environments. Modern scholars draw lessons from the socio-religious structures, early governance, and economic systems that existed on the island as case studies in sustainable community organization and intercultural exchange. Through this blend of preservation and innovation, Serpent Island's legacy lives on, a poignant reminder that history persists not only in ruins or artifacts, but in the day-to-day lives of those who inherit its story. It teaches us that even the most isolated regions can have profound connections that transcend borders and centuries. As we reflect on the enduring links to the lost civilization of Serpent Island, we are reminded of the unbroken threads of human experience that weave through time, binding us to our shared heritage. So, as we settle into the quietude of this night, knowing that the echoes of ancient Serpent Island resound in modernity, we prepare ourselves for a future chapter waiting to be written, a chapter that holds the promise of continued discovery and shared legacy ripe for exploration. The island's story did not end with its physical decline and dispersal of its people. In recent years, dedicated efforts have been focused on preserving and understanding the tangible history left behind by the ancient inhabitants of Serpent Island. This preservation highlights the enduring value of memory inscribed in artifacts and the environment itself. Archaeologists and historians have undertaken meticulous work to ensure these remnants are safeguarded for future generations. This involves consolidating knowledge gathered from excavations and carefully cataloging artifacts. Each find, from the simplest pottery shard to the most intricately carved totem, offers invaluable insight into the daily lives and spiritual beliefs of the island's early society. Key to this preservation is the use of advanced conservation techniques. For example, carbon dating and chemical analysis have been employed to determine the age and composition of uncovered materials, allowing scientists to accurately place these items within a broader historical context. Understanding the makeup of clay or paint used in decorative artifacts helps in not only identifying their origin, but also in preserving their integrity. Additionally, digital technology plays a critical role in memorializing the island's historical narrative. High-resolution 3D scanning and digital modeling of the relics have been used to create virtual representations that can be studied and shared globally without risking damage to the originals. These models have become essential educational tools, bringing the island's past into classrooms and museums worldwide. The ecological aspects of Serpent Island are not overlooked in this preservation effort. Environmental scientists have been documenting its unique ecosystems, which remain vital to understanding how the ancient society thrived. The island's geography, flora, and fauna offer clues to how its early inhabitants adapted agricultural practices and maintained ecological balance. Conservation of these natural environments ensures the living laboratory remains for future study and appreciation. Cultural preservation efforts include initiatives to collect oral histories from descendants of the original settlers, preserving the linguistic and cultural heritage passed down over generations. Storytelling, songs, and dances that have survived through oral tradition are recorded and archived, solidifying cultural ties to the island's storied past. Community engagement has become pivotal in preservation strategies, ensuring that locals directly contribute to maintaining and interpreting their heritage. Workshops and collaborative projects invite community members to participate actively in archaeological digs and cultural exhibitions, fostering a sense of ownership and pride in their shared history. Through these comprehensive efforts, archaeological ecological, and cultural, the story of Serpent Island is kept alive. By tracing the connections between past and present, we gain a deeper understanding of the intricate web of human experiences that bind us across time. The island continues to whisper its tales, casting light upon the resilience of its people and the timeless lessons they offer. As we navigate the realms of history and memory, Serpent Island reminds us of the importance of preserving inscribed memories. Its legacy endures not just in the physical remnants left behind, but in the collective memory that carries its story forward. In these reflections, we find a resolve to protect our shared human history, ensuring that the serene echoes of Serpent Island remain a beacon for future generations, guiding them to appreciate the profundity of their cultural heritage.